Well, we got the monitor out of the machine and it's on the test bench here, and we'll get working on it. I've got a new flyback and a full cap kit, and you can see that it's just not the best image. It's dim, and you can see the curvature of the pin cushion. There's actually two adjustments here. The pin cushion board's on the side, and there's an adjustment right here for it, but it never quite really gets straight. And then there's a secondary. If we go down here and look, I can get it to right about there. No, but then it's up here, it's off. So you have to find the happy medium right about there and there. There's also a secondary adjustment on the remote board, which is this pot here. It says OFC or DFC, I forget, but you can see when I turn that, it just bows it out worse. So right there is as low as it can go, and it's still kind of bowed. And you just look how dark that is, and that's with contrast and brightness maxed out. I've got let's see here, brightness and contrast. Well, no, I'm sorry, it's not there's brightness maxed out. Doesn't help though. If I turn the flyback up any higher than it already is, I get the raster lines. So it's in definite dire need of rebuilding. So I'm going to do that. I'll set up the camera and we'll do I'm going to try to anyway. It may not work out. If it does, it'll be included. If it doesn't, I'll just cut right to the end. But let me get the camera set up, and I'll try and do a time-lapse sped up here of the cap kit and the flyback, and then we'll come back and see how it turned out. So here we go. All right, all done. The cap kit did not include the caps for the pincushion board over here, so I had to dig through my giant bag of caps, and I was able to successfully find all the replacement correct caps. So I got the pincushion board capped. I wanted to make sure I could do that because of what's happening with the pincushion. And yep, everything else is good. We're hooked back up as far as everything needs to be. New flyback. The larger wire always is the focus wire, and the smaller wire is always a G2 wire, just so you know. And these things always ship turned all the way down, so we're gonna have to, as far as the screen pot is always pretty much down completely. Let's see, yep, down all the way. So I'll turn it up about, I don't know, an eighth or so, and then we'll turn down. The way you properly do this is you start with the you turn brightness and contrast completely down, all the way. Contrast, brightness, all the way down. Then you turn your screen pot all the way down, and then you turn it up until you get the horizontal raster lines on the tube. Then you turn your screen pot back down until they just go away. Then that's where you leave your screen pot set to. Then you adjust your contrast and brightness from there, and your colors and stuff. So that's how it should always be done. Depending on the age of the flyback and the type of chassis, you may not get the raster lines before it gets too bright. So you have to adjust accordingly, but that's usually the normal way it should be done. So with that being said, now that the cap kit's done, I haven't plugged it in yet. You can share with me whether or not a cap blows up from being in backwards, but I'm fairly confident. I'm going to say, knock on metal, I have never, in 16 years of doing cap kits and whatnot, have ever put a cap in backwards. So yeah, so we'll see here. Let's get the camera set up on the tripod and get the tube back over here and see what happens. Okay. All right, I gotta get our rails back on here. Which won't take about a moment. Let's see. Going on with that. These not the right screws? I guess not. No, these are the ones that... Do I have it upside down? No. Where'd my screws go? Oh, here we go. Derp. Alright. Where are the rest of them? They're all hiding on this coil here. This is what happened to all of my, where'd they go? That is too weird. I gotta find where my screws went. Hang on. Okay, well, I totally forgot when I took this apart, the front rail here was actually still attached to the frame, and someone had taken the screws out on the chassis here, so it was only actually being held on by one end. When it was installed in the chassis here, it was it was flopping around on this end, but this end was secure. So the reason I couldn't find the screws was because it never had any, and I forgot about that when I took it out. So I'll find the right screws, but for now, let's get it back installed here. Okay, 1, 2, buckle my shoe. So yeah, this is how it was. The back was secure, but the front was just flopping around like this. So I'll get some screws later, but for now this will be okay. Alright, we got our remote board coming out the back. We got our flyback anode wire coming out the top. Let's go ahead and get that hooked up. Alright, let's get our yoke hooked up. Okay, where's our ground? Right here. We'll go ahead and hook up our degaussing coil, and we'll hook up our neck. Okay, so we got, again, always count to 5. Anode, neck, yoke's hooked up, our DAG ground's hooked up, and our video will be hooked up here momentarily. So that's all 5. Anode, neck, yoke, ground, video. If you do that before you power this up, you won't forget anything. Now some chassis have a disconnectable remote board. You always want to make sure that is hooked up. So I guess if you think about it, you want to count to 6 to make sure this is hooked up, because it can still be unhooked here. But yeah, I guess if you count to 6. But if you were to forget any of those steps and turn it on, you could damage things pretty royally. So that being said, anode, neck, yoke, ground, and remote board, and then video will be here shortly. Let's get our power connector out here. Alright, so let's hook up our power. Let's hook up our video. And that should be it. Okay. Brightness down, contrast down, screen pot turned up about just a sliver, and here we go. What do we get? Let me turn the light out behind here and we'll turn it on. Hopefully nothing blows up. Fingers crossed. Hey, powered up. That's sign, good sign number 1. And what do we have? Well, nothing yet. The tube could be weak, in which case I could just zap it with the rejuvenator. We don't have anything yet, so let's turn up our flyback. There we go. So you can see the raster lines there across here. So we'll turn this back down until the raster lines go away. Oop. I guess right about there. Then we'll turn our brightness and contrast up. Yeah, this tube is no good. Let's adjust some holes here. Whoa! Well, that's no good. Let's give it a few seconds, turn it back on. came back on. There we go. So each hold, vertical hold. I bet my sync wire is not hooked up right. Let's plug this back in. Is my sync wire no good? There we go. Darn sync wire. Well, the pin cushion's not that much better, and it's still very dim. Let's do our focus. Focus. Oh man, that is crisp. Wow. Okay. Let's move you here. Let's do this. No. Do some adjustments. That's still very dim. Let's try our contrast is all the way up, maxed out. Brightness is maxed out. To get rid of the white balance, right about there is where the brightness needs to be. If I turn the flyback up any, man, this is, yep, we're going to have to rejuvenate this tube because this tube is no good. Wow, that is pretty dim and terrible. So I'm not able to really do much here. The pin cushion, the whole reason I capped this was for the pin cushion issue. And it doesn't appear that I'm able to correct it. I wonder if I can just change the horizontal size here and adjust it out that way. That's going to be the only adjustment for the size, unfortunately. What does this one do? That's an additional width adjustment. That's what I'm looking for. But yeah. Unfortunately, I still got the pin cushion, but I can live with it if we adjust it out. Yeah, that's what I'll have to just adjust it out. Vertical position. So I mean the image is crisp and clear. Still got a little bit of pin cushion, but that's okay. Well, I guess it's time to do the rejuvenation. Let's go ahead and turn this off. And I'll get the rejuvenator out and we'll see how it turns out. Well, we're all set up here, ready to go. The heater voltage is 6.3, so we will turn this to set heater. And as you can see, it's set to 6.3, and you have to actually go to 7 to 9 to get up to it. Go to 4 to 7, it won't let you get to 6.3. So we're dialed in 6.3. We go to our G1 voltage, and we put it at 30 for the red, green, and blue. Set to G1 voltage. G2 cutoff, I also want about 30. So there is the red, green, and blue. Now we go to read emission, and you can see that on the blue it's barely in the green. There's the green barely in the green, and the red barely in the green. So yeah, this tube is on its last legs. So let's go over here to rejuvenate. We're on the red. Let's hit the button. Should go over to good. Hold it there for a few seconds. Let's go to green. I'll shoot green. Let's go to blue, and we'll shoot blue. Okay, so those are all good. Let's go back to red and shoot it one more time here real quick. That's good. Green. Good. Blue. Yeah, blue kind of stuck there. Clean and balance. Let's go over to red. Go up about middle and then stay there. That's good. Green should do the same thing. Blue, same thing. Okay, let's go back to emission. Read emission. Blue's a bit higher. Green, red. That didn't really do much for the emission. But let's see if that made any difference on the tube. So hang on one moment. Alright, so I haven't changed any settings or made any adjustments. I just disconnected the rejuvenator, hooked the tube back up with the neck on the chassis, and let's fire it up and see if it looks any different. I'm going to turn off the light, and let's see what happens. Nope, not really. What is going on here with this? It looked much better in the machine, because you can see the brightness needs to be about there. That's where it needs to be. The guns are going crazy because of the rejuvenation, but contrast is all the way up. Brightness is where it needs to be, and it's just very dim. I guess I'll play with the colors here, see what we can figure out. Where's my screwdriver? Here it is. The colors are all set to center too, so if we turn our contrast down and turn our colors up, maybe we can get something going here. That's a bit better. Hey, look at that. That is much better. Looks like a little color adjustment's all it needed. Outstanding. That looks phenomenal. Yes, indeed, friends. Look at that. That is phenomenal. Oh, still too bright. I gotta turn the brightness down. So you want, the way it needs to be is you want a black background. Whenever there's nothing on the screen, you want the background to be black. As you'll see here, you can still not, it's not black, you can see the line on the bottom. So if we adjust this, let me zoom in here if I can. The way you want to adjust this, let me shrink the size. That's position, that's good enough. You can see here, it's not an exactly black image down here. You have to adjust it until the image is roughly. Oh well, that's off screen. That's why it's like that. Let's go back to position. Oh, that's hold. Vertical position, and we'll increase the size a bit. Okay, that's probably pretty good right there. All right, but you can see here that that looks awesome. So even with the pincushion, it's not too bad. So I can live with that. Yeah, it's not quite perfect. It's a bit, you turn our blue up a bit. But that looks pretty darn good, ladies and germs. Pretty darn good. So yeah, I am very happy with that, despite the pincushion. We'll call it good still. So yeah, success. Monitor rebuilt, ready to go back in the machine. Ready to go back in the machine. Easy for me to say. I talk fast, sorry. Yeah, that is one of the best looking pictures I've seen in quite a while. Let me get you closer here. It's just so, look at, it's just the crisp, and oh, see, you can still see it's too bright, unfortunately. So let's turn it down slightly. Okay, that should be all right. There we go. Perfect. Okay, yeah. Well, there you have it. Stay tuned for part 3 when we start getting stuff installed in the machine.